everyone to the episode. So I have Mark Rozmarynoski on, and as I already introduced him. And I brought Mark in because he creates an amazing product. And several years ago, I was looking to source CBD because my patients always asked me, and I was sending them to different websites to buy it online. I had never been to the farms. I didn't know much about the company other than trying to read reviews about them. And I don't remember who turned me on to the fact that you guys were local, but I heard that we had a local hemp farmer who produced CBD. So we connected and started selling the product. So I think it's been like 4 or 5 years.
It has been.
Well, yeah. And I recently kind of was, so I met Mark once, I think in the waiting room in our clinic, and he gave off an amazing vibe that one time. I was like, this guy seems really cool. And then I never saw him again. And then I was reintroduced to him again recently, actually through Matt Schmidt. Thank you. The quantum healer who was recently on the episode. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to him. I want to go see the farm. I want to go see where our product is coming from. And I want to hear more about Mark and what he does and why he does it. So that being said, thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. I want to hear, or share with the audience, because you already kind of shared this with me, like how you got into this. Like, what is your background? And then how did you transition into becoming a hemp farmer, creating CBD products? Because I know you did not always do this.
I believe I was divinely guided to where I am right now. My background was I grew up on a dairy farm, so I had a farming background, but it was more, I would say, commercialized. It was a family farm, but already, we're doing GMO crops, Roundup, spraying, bovine somatotrophin, growth hormone for the cows. It was all the things. Mm-hmm. And then after high school, I went into construction because there was a lot more money in construction than farming. And if I was going to work 7 days a week, I might as well get time and a half and double time.
Right. And you're already a strong farm boy, so
yeah.
you can do the work, right?
Yeah, so it was no problem getting the job, and there was always overtime, and I would rather work a double time day than have to work at the farm. Mm-hmm. And
you never did the farming? You were like out of high school, straight into construction?
Yeah, but I always helped out on weekends or mornings. I started traveling a lot. Then when I was home, I would help out. It was always, or early on, I was laid off a lot, so I always had work to do. But if I could go make a lot more money working construction than helping the family farm, that's what I did.
Right.
But I always helped out when I could. So I was always involved in the farm, I was just more labor and help and field work.
Yep, being a good son. And then what happened? Like all of a sudden, what was it? Because it started, early 2019?
No, in 2017, actually one of the project managers at the company I was working at, his dad was helping a Wisconsin legislator help write the hemp pilot program for Wisconsin. And he started talking about it.
Because the Farm Bill was 2018.
Yeah, the first Farm Bill was 2014.
Okay.
Colorado, Oregon, a few states legalized growing of hemp then. And then 2018 Farm Bill, almost all the states jumped on board.
So it wasn't even legal to grow hemp before 2014?
Correct.
Interesting.
Now, I think California might have passed it earlier.
Okay. But otherwise, really?
It wasn't put into the Farm Bill.
Okay.
And remember, THC still is a Schedule I drug, according to our government.
Right.
Even though it's left up to the states.
Right.
Kind of contradictory. We were on a road trip, and he was talking about his dad was importing CBD. He was well versed in it, and it just really intrigued me. Up until then, I had never touched cannabinoids, marijuana, anything.
I know that blew me away.
Yeah, I was a Catholic farm boy. We, drank a lot of alcohol, but never touched anything else. And so I started researching it and understanding it, and Wisconsin did legalize growing hemp. So I grew in 2018 and really fell in love with the plant and started understanding cannabinoids, the endocannabinoid system. There's medicinal benefits. Because really when I started thinking about it, it was like, I want to always get back to the farm, but do a crop that was more profitable.
Did you have intention when you first started growing the plants that you were going to build a business on it? Or were you doing it as a hobby?
I just wanted to grow in 2018 and understand the plant and just see what it was like.
Did you use your family land at that time?
Yes.
So you just kind of borrowed a little patch and grew some
plants?
Yep,
I took an acre that was cornfield, and what really blew my mind that fall is I went out there and some plants had tipped over because we had a lot of rain and some wind, and I started digging into the dirt, and I saw all these earthworms. And seeing earthworms on this farm forever.
Really?
But because of no chemicals in that area and the vibration of the hemp plant, the worms came back.
Right.
and the soil was just so rich, and I'm like, okay, this is really a crop. But still, I was still thinking more of fiber, grain, because I'm a farmer, right? And not so much making cannabinoids out of it. And then I just started seeing research about CBD and hearing stories, because cannabinoids really was a grassroots movement. Mm-hmm. It was all word of mouth. Hey, or say medical marijuana, I'm smoking this, it's helping me, it's helping with this. It was never pushed by a company. It was never pushed by any organization. It was never, no information has ever really been put out by any consumer agency.
And there's not a lot of research done on it because there's a stigma around it.
Yeah. Well, you can't do research on it because THC is a Schedule I narcotic.
Yeah.
So there's universities aren't doing research. Fortune 500 companies aren't doing research. So there's really nothing out there but word of mouth. And then you start going on the internet and looking at stories, and then I started buying some CBD and noticed my sleep was greatly improving. And that's when we decided to start a business.
And then you just learned on your own how to make the product? I forgot what you call it when it goes through the ethanol, and what do you call that?
Yeah. Well, my background in construction was power plants, oil refineries, paper mills. So I've seen a lot of processes. An oil refinery, taking crude oil, you're cracking off your kerosene, your diesels, your different gases in the oil. So I understood processing and a lot of that.
So did you get all of the equipment that you have now right away when you decided to make a business? Okay, yep. So you've had that all along.
And that was the thing. There was so much to choose from doing research. People were extracting with CO2. People were just cold pressing it out. And we had toured this one place in Oregon, and the guy's method just really resonated with me, and he really coached us how to make a superior product.
So you did a ton of research.
A lot of research.
Okay. And then what were the first...
Before we purchased our equipment.
What were the first products you developed and sold? Or did you... Because I know you didn't have everything.
The first product we actually made was after we extracted the oils out of the bud, we sent the bud in for a lab and noticed there were still some cannabinoids in the bud. So then we started making product for horses. We pelletized them. Because when a horse's endocannabinoid system is much more sensitive than a human's, even though they're 2,000 pounds, they need about the same amount of milligrams. So even though we had pulled most of the cannabinoids out we could, there was still some in the bud. So we hammer milled it and made pellets, and then we started doing a bunch of research with local farmers and their horses and started seeing amazing results, especially with older arthritic horses. Mm-hmm. My horse is 5 years younger. I've had a boarding horse that we couldn't ride anymore, but we wanted to keep him. All of a sudden, now they're riding it again. The horse was retired. It's just amazing stories. Incredible. Yeah.
And you still sell that product?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And then what was the next product?
Then we decided to make a tincture but then doing research on the carrier oil, because most products out there, they're using hemp oil, MCT oil, and I believe oil from seed should be for lubrication, not put into the body. Mm-hmm. And we were, I think we were already starting to network with some other health professionals and getting their input and what they'd like to see. And so we decided to go with avocado oil, and we started making a tincture.
And then now you have, and we'll show everything at the end, but he has a wide array of wonderful products that I've used, most of them, I would say. And I'm still going to start using the other ones too, because I'm a big fan. But I want to talk to you then about a little bit about the endocannabinoid system, because I think the audience probably doesn't know much about what it is, but I think it's really important. So I'm going to get a little geeky and sciencey for a little bit, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about the different types of products you can use that are CBD. We'll talk about Delta 9. We'll talk about legality of the products. If you're getting drug tested, what you should and should not use. And then we'll finish off by showing you all the different products that he has available at his company. So I actually took a medical marijuana class maybe 5 years ago. This was when states were just starting to legalize marijuana, and I was fairly convinced that Wisconsin was going to follow suit. They have not. But I wanted to be well versed in when and when I should not use these products with my patients, because people are, people with chronic pain, cancer, who need to stimulate their appetite, mental health issues, anxiety, insomnia, all the things. I thought, well, if marijuana is something I should be using, I want to learn about it. It ended up being something where I didn't want to go down that pathway. I'm like, I think there's better products out there than using pure THC. So that's when I became really interested in CBD. So basically, CBD works on the endocannabinoid system, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about any of this. But the endocannabinoid system is something that was only discovered in like 1988, I believe. And it's basically this system that helps regulate the body and keep it in homeostasis. And if you don't know what homeostasis is, I always think of a teeter-totter. And if it's in perfect balance, that is what homeostasis is with your body. So when you have that day where everything is just clicking and you feel good, you have energy, you feel clear-minded, you feel happy, that is a really good sign of homeostasis, that your systems are all working well together. And I'm just going to do an aside. That is my biggest beef with Western medicine, is that they do not work on a patient thinking about their homeostasis. They work thinking about singular organ systems. So it's like, let's just fix the heart, but not worry about the whole system. So
everything's connected.
Yeah, everything is connected. We are physiological human creatures that need to be in balance to feel good. So anyway, the endocannabinoid system is part of achieving that balance. And it's basically like this network signaling where your body releases endocannabinoids as needed. And then those endocannabinoids go and sit in a receptor somewhere in the body, and it can be in the brain, it can be in the periphery of your body, and then a response happens. And that response is what is part of the health benefits of CBD. So you'll get, and I'll talk about those later. One of the things that happens with CBD products is they are not endocannabinoids, because obviously your body is not creating them, but they are called phytocannabinoids. So now I feel really fancy for saying that. But basically, they're nature's version of the endocannabinoids that we make in our body. And so when you take a product with CBD, you're basically giving yourself something similar to what your body naturally produces to stay in homeostasis. CBD can both sit in these receptors in your body, but it also slows down the enzymatic breakdown of endocannabinoids, so you almost get like a double hit. I think THC actually only stimulates the CB1 receptors, but CBD actually also stimulates the receptors and breaks down the natural endocannabinoids in your system. So you get this whole systemic effect that can be really, really nice without the psychoactive effects that you get with a THC product. So some of the benefits that are studied and reported, and I would say personally experienced, and I'm sure you've experienced the same. For sure, people talk about CBD for pain relief because there are anti-inflammatory properties that go along with CBD when it hits those receptors and when you increase your natural endocannabinoids. But then you also get a decreased perception of pain. So pain is both a physical thing that is happening, but it's also how you perceive it. So like a lot of people who have significant trauma in their life are going to perceive pain to be stronger than it really is because of the way that their system interprets things. And that's a whole nother conversation, but it helps with that. So people definitely find pain relief in it and decrease inflammation. Definitely for anxiety and stress. I don't know if you see benefits with people with depression.
Yes.
Okay. So for sure, anxiety and stress, mental health disorders. So it kind of calms down your nervous system. And a lot of times when people have mental health disorders, it's because their nervous system is just like, I always tell my patients, it's like you're a cat on a tin roof, which is kind of how I was when you showed up this morning. But, just that like high fight or flight, sympathetic mode. So it kind of calms that down. People use it to sleep for the same reason, because it calms your nervous system down, which helps you sleep. And you were saying you noticed a definite change and improvement in your sleep when you started using it. Skin health, which I did have
restless leg. And when I started taking CBD, it was
away.
Completely gone. And that's when I really realized there's benefits to this.
Right. And then the skin health thing, is that something that you found out right away, or is that something that came along throughout the process? Because I didn't really ever think
that
of
was
CBD
later
as a skin
in the
thing.
process, understanding that your receptors go all the way to your skin, and your skin's actually very absorbent as well. So then topicals, and the other reason we really push the topicals is because there still is not clarity from the FDA, even though the Farm Bill has been written in 2018. We really expected the FDA to put some guidelines out there, and they haven't, but they've left topicals alone. So you could be a little bit more bold and reach more people, not make claims, but put out testimonials and not get shut down.
Right. No, so for the skin, and it's, anecdotally, he gave me his skin oil, which I'll show you later. But for redness, I always have a really red face. I have that Norwegian blood in me, and I did notice a reduction in my redness after using it for a few days, and then I gave it to my daughter. But I'll be buying more. But definitely for skin, and that's part of like the anti-inflammatory effect. I was interested when I read about, as I was researching for our episode, neurodegenerative diseases. So we see a lot of patients with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and I had never really heard of CBD as something that could be used for brain health, but it makes sense if there's CB1
It
receptors in the
does, and we've
brain.
had some good testimonials on that as well.
Right. Like, have you seen a reduction in like just symptoms like tremors or
Mostly reducing tremors, and
how about mental clarity and
I had one
recall,
person,
things like that?
I had one that said their dad actually remembered this name after not remembering it for a year.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that is really
I
interesting.
don't think it's going to reverse it, but it's going to help with the symptoms
Right.
of it and manage it.
And then I think lastly, and you can add if there's any other benefits I didn't mention, but the immune system. So I always love talking to my patients about their immune system, because when I tell them I'm giving them something to help their immune system, it's really confusing because you don't want to suppress the immune system because that goes against what you're trying to do. And you also don't want to increase the activity of the immune system, because then you're feeding into autoimmune disease if they have a potential towards that. So things like CBD are actually immune modulating, which means they don't make it suppressed and they don't make it work more. They just make it work better.
Correct.
So, and that is amazing, because then you're not at risk of triggering someone's autoimmune disease, and you're not at risk of shutting their immune system down so that they can't actually fight infections and pathogens that they're exposed to. So
they say one of our mentors had an autoimmune disorder, and she was bedridden for almost 3 years, and she turned to marijuana. But she realized, this was 16, 18 years ago, she realized she didn't want to smoke it. There has to be a better way to get this in her body. And that's when she started extracting with different and using ethanol for the purity. And you've also possibly heard of Rick Simpson oil. It's really, it was a underground thing for cancer. And all he was essentially doing, and this is almost 20 years ago as well, is he was just taking a coffee pot, putting the buds in the coffee pot, putting Everclear in there, and
distilling it.
Yeah, well, the alcohol pulls out the cannabinoids out of the bud, and the coffee pot filter kind of filters it out. Then you'd evaporate the ethanol, and he was giving it to people with cancer, and they were seeing significant results. So it's still called Rick Simpson oil. So we kind of modeled our extracting process off of that, just on a more industrial scale.
Right.
We're not using a coffee pot in my mom's basement.
He has these huge vats of ethanol, and then this beautiful equipment. Like, I was very, very impressed with the cleanliness.
Stainless steel.
Everything was just beautiful, organized, no clutter. I mean, it was incredible.
I was back to my growing up on a dairy farm. The milk house had to be spotless. Everything was stainless. Everything's clean, and it's a lot of things in life brought me to this point.
Okay, so
but I want to go back to the endocannabinoid system.
Yes.
People ask, why does CBD work for this? Why does it work for that? And what you had touched upon, it just helps balance your body. That's why it works for so many different things. It's like, well, will it work for it really just helps balance your body. It could be menopause. It could be hot flash. It could be so many things. It's going to help your body regulate itself. Yeah. And that's really what it does.
Anything that can assist in your body being in homeostasis is going to be incredibly powerful, because a body in homeostasis is going to fight off infections. It's going to fight off cancer cells. And I'm not saying that CBD is going to kill cancer, but I'm just saying it's going to make your body a better vehicle to fight off these things.
And we've seen a lot of results with THC attacking cancer cells. The higher, anybody with cancer, recommend a higher dose of THC, almost a 1-to-1 THC and CBD. And then the CBD helps your immune system. So even if you are going through traditional treatments of chemotherapy, radiation, taking CBD during that's going to help your immune system, because the radiation is killing everything, and you're healthier, you're more energy between your treatments, and it doesn't have to be a one or all, completely natural or completely Western. There's a melding.
A melding. Well, and it's good to hear that, because a lot of times when people are going through cancer treatment, they're told, don't take anything that stimulates your immune system. So don't take all of those wonderful supplements you've been taking, because we're actually trying to kill, and you don't want to feed the cancer cells and help them grow. We want to totally suppress it, but then obviously it does that to the whole body.
Everything else too, and this just helps.
Right. Yes. So if there's something you can take that helps modulate and not suppress, it's going to be very, very powerful.
And the higher THC can help stimulate the appetite.
Yes, right. So let's talk about the difference between THC and CBD, because this is where I've always had a little bit of fogginess. Do you want to start, or do you want me to go off my notes and talk about what I learned?
I'll let you start.
Well, so what I found about THC versus CBD is that THC binds the CB1 receptors that are in the brain, and that is where you get the psychoactive effects of it, the high, because it stimulates those receptors that are in the brain. You get that high feeling that you get. Whereas CBD actually is predominantly stimulating the receptors in the immune system and the rest of the body, and also, like I said before, decreasing the enzymatic degradation of the endocannabinoids that your body is naturally producing. So you're going to get more of a systemic effect, but it does not affect those CB1 receptors in the brain to a great extent. Like I still think there is some binding there, but it's not enough that you're going to get a high or you're going to get loopy or have any psycho effects from it.
So THC is a psycho. It does have a lot of medicinal benefits, but it has a psychoactive effect on the brain, and it's more than just delta 9 THC. I believe there's 7 or 8 different psychoactive cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. You might see delta 8 out there, delta 10, HHC, THCV, other
Talk
psychoactive.
about the differences of those, because I've had patients ask me, like, can I get some delta 8? I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Like, I didn't even know delta 9 was THC.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a special form of CBD that made you feel loopy. So that was a whole thing for me.
There's so many stigmas out there. So most of us are familiar with marijuana. Using the term marijuana because it's really a derogatory term that was coined in the 30s to target a certain ethnicity so they could pass the Marijuana Tax Act and ban cannabinoids. Because I think they knew the medical benefits back then, but the endocannabinoid system was not discovered until the 80s by science.
Right.
So you heard a lot of medical marijuana helps me, but over time they really went underground, so they started really breeding the plant to have high concentrations of THC because people were going after for recreational use. They were seeing some benefits too, but it was primary for recreational use, the high. But then you're also having side effects, people nausea, because you're taking all this THC and not a balanced product, which I believe creator nature, how it was intended. So what we try to focus on our products is the ratio of CBD to THC, because it's also been shown that if you're really, really high on straight THC and you just took straight CBD, it would bring you back down. So it's finding the balance of CBD to THC. And even our higher ratio products, you'll feel a little relaxed, lightheaded, but not like just high, because your body is also taking all the CBD in and relaxing the body. So it's just a really, really relaxing product. But get back to Delta 8. Delta 8 is another psychoactive cannabinoid, and I think it's just like one molecule off from Delta 9. But Delta 8 really got popular, how the Farm Bill was written in 2018, and we can talk about legalities of it.
We should.
Because
that's a big question everyone has.
That's a big question for everybody.
Sure.
How do you sell these products, and how is it legal? So when the Farm Bill was, they said delta 9 THC derived from hemp under 0.3% is legal. And maybe the intent of the Farm Bill was the bud at the time of harvest or the testing. So if you would steal some bud off my field, which just happened, the kids are gonna smoke it and really not get anything. I'm not gonna go rob him again. But now we have that bud and we're extracting the oils, and now everything's becoming a little bit more concentrated. And then for our tincture, you have the weight of, say, a milliliter of avocado oil and cannabis oil. You know you can only put so many milligrams of THC in that to stay under 0.3. And that's kind of why we went to the gummies. But to back that up, they never called out any of the other psychocannabinoids in the 2018 Farm Bill.
Oh, they didn't.
So a lot of manufacturers said they didn't say Delta 8 is legal, but they also didn't say it's illegal. But the plant does not naturally produce that much Delta 8, so they weren't able to extract the Delta 8 out of the plant and put it in the product. So then you get some chemists and scientists involved. They isolate the CBD molecule, and there's a process, I believe ammonia acid, something, I'm not sure how it's done. And they're altering that chemical to alter that CBD molecule and turning it into Delta 8. So most of the products you see out there are somewhat synthetic because they've been altered in a lab, Delta 8, HHC, and
the gas station varieties.
And I really call them recreational products. And recreation's fine. People are gonna do recreational stuff, whatever it might be, alcohol, cannabinoids, gambling. People are going to do what they're going to do. And that's really why Delta 8 got popular first. And then So I'm kind of a math guy, and I'm like, well, it says it has to be under 0.3% THC by dry weight of the product. Well, if I make a gummy that's 6 grams, 6,000 milligrams, 0.3, that's 18. So I could legally put up to 18 milligrams of THC that I grew right here in Wisconsin into a product, and it's legal. And you don't have to go to Michigan, you don't have to go to Illinois, you're higher, but it's still extracted from the plant, and it's different strains that we grow at different ratios. So you're always going to get in our products 3 times as much CBD as THC. So it's still not a recreational product,
Right.
It's a medicinal product.
Right.
But that's how we were able to put higher milligrams of THC in our certain products.
Okay, that totally.
Especially our like our balm, our topicals.
Yes.
Actually, I believe your CB1s really, I know they're in the brain, but they extend to the skin. So THC we found to be really helpful on pain relief.
Okay.
So our balm does
Topic.
have,
And I've heard that.
Yeah. So we did put a higher amount of THC in our pain balm.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that the studies on pain relief with CBD and THC are pretty robust.
Mm-hmm. And then also all our products are full spectrum. It's not just CBD and it's not just THC. There's so far over 100 different, I think they're up to 120 or more different
yes,
in the plant.
Mm-hmm.
And each one, and it's the full spectrum. It's taking all the cannabinoids in, not just isolated. You know, a straight CBD product or a straight THC product will not have as much medicinal benefits as a full spectrum product with all the cannabinoids.
I think patients could liken that to, like, let's say you're doing thyroid hormone replacement and you take just a levothyroxine, which is just like the T part of the whole thyroid hormone, or you take a natural desiccated thyroid medication, or maybe a blend of a T3 and a T4, which is a levothyroxine liothyronine. The closer you get to what your body naturally makes is going to give you a better result, I would say.
Actually, a little bit about that because I read up on it.
Yeah. And or with like hormone replacement, if you just give someone a synthetic Premarin Prempro for their hot flashes, which is a man-made hormone, compared to doing a bioidentical cream that contains a blend of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, very similar in molecular structure to what your body used to make, you're going to get better results. And I think it's safer for you, and you're more likely to be in homeostasis.
Agreed.
All the good things. And we can talk about energy too, but we'll get there.
And that's why I believe our products are super effective and some of the best out there. Is our process, how we grow, the energy we put into our plants, and the full spectrum and minimal processing. We are going from first pass extraction, pulling out the oils, to final product. And when you bite into our gummy, you're gonna taste a little bit of.
You do.
You taste the cannabis.
Oh,
yeah.
I was like,
you put our skin stuff on. There's gonna be a little hint of cannabis.
Right. Definitely.
But it's not over processed. There's other companies that might distill it more, process it more, isolate all the cannabinoids, put them back in together. And I don't think the bioavailability is there as just a natural one-pass extraction.
Yeah, and I would compare your production facility to, like, let's say you're a coffee person and you do like the pressed coffee, and you make sure you get either you roast your own beans or you buy like beautiful organic beans that are mold-free from a fancy place. You are all about the process before you get that final cup of coffee. Or if you're a wine person and you want to get wine from a biodynamic, I think they're called, regenerative farm, where they're blessing the soil and the production of the wine is just immaculate and there's so much good energy around it. That's what I would say your production facility was like in the whole farm.
Those are two very good analogies. I always use the craft beer analogy.
Yeah.
Where they're growing the hops just for their different hops for their brews, and everything's in house and it's real with care and love, and it's a craft brew. It's more expensive. It takes longer. There's a cost to it versus a Budweiser or Miller where it's mass production. At the end of the day, you're still gonna feel the effect from a craft brew or a Budweiser.
Right. Yeah, and we're lucky. I mean, there's obviously great farms.
But I like the coffee analogy better than the beer analogy.
Good. There's
so
obviously
start using that.
Okay, good. Good. No, not at all. Yeah, I know there's obviously great farms all over the country, but I was really excited to know that we had a place like this, like literally 15 minutes from my clinic. So it's pretty cool. And then I want to talk a little bit about like when you would use the product. So first I want to show the product. So Delta 9, we just talked about. So these are the gummies that you were talking about. These have a more of a psychoactive effect along with the benefits of the CBD,
Yep.
correct? So
Correct.
you were telling me this is something you tell people to take like off and on, like maybe not a daily use of it.
Yeah, I would say the majority of our customers are purchasing these to help sleep.
Okay.
And they don't even need a full gummy. A lot of them are cutting them in quarters into thirds. It's just finding, I always tell them to start low, see how you do, and then you can always increase the dose. And meditation, maybe somebody wants to cut down on drinking,
I was gonna say,
but
if
they
you go to a
like
party and you don't want to drink.
that, yeah, they like that relaxing feeling. They might just take a little bit more, and then it kind of takes the edge off. They feel good, and then they're not hungover in the morning. They're not taxing the liver and all the other damages alcohol does. And then microdosing for anxiety or depression, but real small doses throughout the day.
Like little slivers.
Yeah.
And then that's when I think when you talk about anxiety and like using it during the day,
I will go back to the microdosing.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could do a vape pen or something to administer, but you can't do it legally because and that's why I go back to how the law is written. To put that amount of THC in there, we need the gummy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the other product that I think is really fun to talk about is this full spectrum CBD tincture. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm actually showing it in the video, but we'll put links to all the products in the show notes. And this one I've really enjoyed because it's not as strong of a THC effect, so you're not going to get as much of that brain effect, but you're going to get the overall systemic homeostasis effect. So I was telling Mark that I came to clinic earlier this week or late last week or something like that, and it was a patient day, and I tend to be pretty high, just a little tense because I'm preparing to work with a bunch of patients and I want to do a good job. And I just walked in the clinic and I was like, I just am so chill, but very, very clear headed and mentally focused. And like, I was able to just function really, really well. But this product, I mean, love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
It's a low amount of THC. It's actually a 27-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC versus our Delta-9 gummies, which is really a full spectrum product, but we call them Delta-9 gummies to kind of put the emphasis on that there's Delta-9 in there.
Right.
That's a 3-to-1 ratio. So the CBD is just really helping calm the body. And it's really an everyday product that I think people should take daily.
Yeah, I'll be taking that every day.
30 to 90 milligrams. Everybody asks, well, how much should I take? And it's start low, find out if you're feeling well, and then if you're not, then up it.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't do it like me and just take the whole amount right away. And then
there's nothing wrong.
No, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
There's nothing wrong with taking more because you're going to go through more product, but your receptors are only going to take so much in and put it where you need to put it. Right. Because they do the balancing for you. That's why you cannot die from taking too much THC.
Right.
Your CB1 receptors are just going to take so much in. You can be really stupid. You can do a lot of dumb things, but you cannot overdose on THC or any of the cannabinoids. Yeah, so I would say I'll give you a fun story on the pellets. I was also feeding them to my steers, and I had a bucket there, and somehow one of the steers got the bucket and consumed 4,000 milligrams of cannabinoids in one sitting. The cow was very chill for about 3 to 4 days. Extremely chill. Just kind of lay there, look at you, smile, didn't really eat too much. So, from experience, you cannot overdose, and I have seen it firsthand. But I do want to say, I think, people ask about the addictive potential of these products too, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but CBD, absolutely no addictive properties. Like, you will not get addicted to it. If you stop it cold turkey, you will not have withdrawal symptoms. You're not going to crave it. It's not going to make you get the munchies and put on a bunch of weight. It's not going to affect your brain and lead to like loss of gray matter. Whereas I think if you're hitting the THC hardcore, I think with THC, you're going to get some of those maybe addictive properties, maybe some loss of like mental function, short-term memory. Yeah. So I think you have to be careful with how you're using that because that's one of the reasons why I didn't continue down my marijuana coursework as much, because they started to show all the studies with kids, like young boys in high school who are using like chronic THC and how it was affecting not only their mental faculty, but their testosterone production and therefore sperm count. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not something I necessarily want to get into. But CBD, you don't have to worry about that at all. And they were taking it out of balance. Right, and taking it out of balance. They were consuming just mostly THC without the other cannabinoids, and it was putting their body out of balance and having some detrimental effects. Yeah, so I think we've all had the stoner friends who, if they're not stoned, they actually don't seem normal. Right. Oh, I love that. And then, okay, so what else are we going to talk about next? Oh, so I want to talk about the
drug testing, because that is something I hear all the time, because I have patients who are in the EMS system, they're police officers, maybe they are professionals with licenses. What do you advise to them in terms of drug testing?
So we make a THC-free product that does not have any THC in it. And actually through time and temperature, THC will break down and convert into CBN. So we put the oil at a certain temperature through time, and then we send it into a lab who has the most stringent testing for THC to make sure it's absolutely THC. Eurofins and Madison, they have, because testing is also different too. I can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Because there's a LOQ or a different, well, if it's under their percentage, it might say T-free, but it actually still could be in there. So you really got to look at the testing companies as well. And all our labs are on our website with all our products. But it's a true THC-free product.
And that's a big deal.
And that's huge.
Because, people lose their license,
lose their job.
And so
anybody with a CDL, you look at all the truck drivers on the road, a lot of hospitals, or their nurses require drug tests. I don't know if you do here.
No.
Obviously not. I was in construction my whole life. There was years I would take 20 drug tests because I was a project manager, and you go to different sites, and Procter & Gamble, well, we got to have your drug test. Oh, I have one for the union. Well, that doesn't count. Well, I took one when I was at Fort Howard. Well, that doesn't count. So drug testing all the time. And I had a very good job, and you can't risk it.
No, for sure. So that's really cool. And do you guys have it just in the gummy form, or do you have the THC?
It's just in the gummy form.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Because of and that's where I went through the process, time and temperature. It does. It's really earthy tasting, and I didn't think the tincture would sell, even with an avocado oil. And right. I didn't want to put some flavoring in or anything else to make it palatable. So we just do the gummy form for the tea-free product. At this time.
And then the other products he has, which it's not all inclusive, but the pain balm, which I have not personally tried yet, but I'm definitely going to try that because I've not found a great pain balm in my life yet. And I think that one's going to be great. He has animal products. So we talked about the horse. You call them pellets? What do you call them?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually pellets.
Pellets. So horse pellets. But
and
then
it's really just a tablespoon of pellets, and that's all the horse needs.
Okay. It's a little dose.
Yeah, it's a small dose.
And then you also have an oil for animals. And is that for large animals and small animals?
It's for cats and dogs.
Okay.
We mix that with salmon oil because almost all pets love salmon oil, and you can pretty much put it right in their mouth. Even my cats, I can put it right in their mouth.
Yeah.
And they're okay with that. Anytime a cat's a little injured or sick, I'm giving it the CBD oil. But we have a dosing chart in our box and on our website. We recommend 1 to 2 milligrams per 10 pounds of body weight. So a 10-pound cat would be a 1/10 of a syringe. A 100-pound dog, you're taking a full syringe.
So will this help my puppy be less of a spaz?
Yes.
It's a real challenge right now.
See a lot of benefits. Older, bigger dogs that are arthritic.
Yes.
It really brings the life back to them. But the other thing is calming. Just chills them out. We always said, even if your dog's healthy or your pet's healthy, sometimes you're going for a car ride. There's fireworks. There's going to be situations where the animal's stressed. A little bit of CBD and they're chill.
Yeah. Actually, I had a guest, Barry Goldstein, on earlier, and he has this Pet Tracks, which is a music that puts pets into coherence, into heart coherence. So I'm going to do his Pet Tracks, your CBD oil, and I'm just going to chill it with my dogs. So I'm going to try that. Then he has these I'm actually really excited about. So the healing serum, which it's just in its box. So Mark gave me his facial healing serum last week, which I'm kind of a skeptic. So I was kind of like, yeah, right. We sell all sorts of facial products here. Like, I've tried a ton of facial products. Like, this isn't going to be any more special than everything else, right? And I tried it, and like I said, I think I said earlier in the show that I felt like it did make a nice reduction in my facial redness, so much so that I was visiting my daughter in Utah, and she had a little bit of a dry spot on her face, and so I gave her the oil. So I'm excited to get some more. And then he has some sexual products, which I've talked about sexual stuff on the podcast before. People have a hard time asking for help, but women over the age of 40, your body's not wanting to reproduce anymore, so you're going to lose that lubrication, blood flow, desire, all those things that make you want to have a sexual encounter. And then you have your husband or your other, whatever your partner is, who's wanting maybe the encounter more than you do. So there are things like arousal oil. And we've been actually using medicinal grade arousal oils in the clinic for years. And those are medicines that you apply to the vaginal area. It enhances blood flow down there. So I was excited there was a natural product, which is CBD, and what else? There's some, essential oils in here too.
A bunch of sensitive oils, and coconut oil.
And coconut oil. So
Yeah.
so that
I don't know all the essential oils offhand.
well, you
Yeah.
can smell them. And then there is lubrication product. So obviously that is affected as well for women who get older. And honestly, you don't have to be old to use lubrication product. It probably makes it nicer regardless. And then the healing serum I already talked about. So is there any product that I missed? Not. Okay. So, and like I said, I'll put links to all the products below. We currently at Wagner Integrative Health, we sell mostly the Delta 9 just because I wasn't well versed in CBD. So it wasn't part of my repertoire with my patients. And so we weren't selling as much product. So we just kept the Delta 9 because people like to be able to buy the Delta 9. But I'm excited to bring these products back into the clinic, and then you obviously can buy it directly through his website, which is excellent. But I think I'm really sold on it. You know, one of the things we use a lot on patients with autoimmune disorders and chronic pain and inflammation is this drug called naltrexone, which is Narcan that you give to heroin overdoses.
Okay.
But they microdose it. It's called low dose naltrexone, and it has amazing results. It binds to opioid receptors and creates this cascade of immune modulating things and decreased inflammation, and people do notice significant improvement. But it's also a drug, harsher, stronger drug, more expensive, and not a lot of patients, but several patients who are more sensitive don't tolerate it. So I'm really, really excited to have something that I think is going to have a similar mechanism that will help those types of patients.
Yeah, our mentor, that's how she healed herself.
Yeah. So I mean,
with the oil,
I might dabble a little bit in using this instead of naltrexone, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And then we talked about this kind of before we started recording, but this is really important because a lot of the episodes I've done recently are on energetics, quantum physics, vibe, heart coherence. And one of the things I noticed about CBD and Mark's farm and his production is that it was a very high vibe experience. Yeah, so I think we were talking earlier about, anytime you produce anything or cook something or create a craft or do an art project, right? If you're a photographer and you take your photographs, if you're writing something, if you're not doing it from a place of coherence, stability, goodness, intention, the outcome is not going to be as good, right? And I think I could tell very much so that his farm had that in it. So the product that's coming out is a direct reflection of the whole process and the love that's behind it, right?
Thank you.
I think I covered everything I want to talk about. Oh, I think last thing I want to talk about was taking the best way to take it. So obviously you have the tinctures and you have the gummies. Is there a difference between taking a gummy and swallowing it versus using a tincture and doing it sublingually for a while?
So the tincture is under your tongue. You have a lot of blood vessels right there. It's going to absorb quicker. You're going to feel the effects quicker. A gummy has to go through your stomach. It's usually about 45 minutes to an hour before you're feeling the effects. Our tincture is really a product that I think everybody should be using daily, 30 to 60 to 90 milligrams a day. And we also make it in gummy form because it is a little bit more convenient with the gummy sometimes if you're traveling in your bag versus the tincture.
Yeah.
And it is a little earthy taste because we do not use any flavor or anything else. It's just cannabis oil and avocado oil. And then the tea-free is also in a gummy form. But I do believe tincture is the best delivery
because you get
method.
there's a first pass that happens when you swallow something. It has to get digested and then it goes through your liver. So you are going to lose some of the properties of it. Can you travel with these things?
Yes.
So people can fly with any of your products legally.
Yep.
Not
even out of the country.
But if you're getting drug tested, you want to go with the THC-free CBD gummies and not the other products. I would think you could apply topically, or you don't really know because they're going to.
I always say no.
Right.
But realistically, for enough THC to absorb through your skin, to build up, to show up on a drug test, it's probably impossible.
Right.
But I have to say there is THC in there, and if you have to take a drug test.
If you want to be really careful.
You want to be careful.
And also some companies But
realistically, a person, and I have a neighbor who works for a construction company, takes a drug test, and he has it dialed in. He knows exactly how many Delta 9 gummies he can take in a week. He takes our tea-free product daily.
Right.
But he does like to relax on the weekend.
Right.
He's got it dialed in what he can take, and there's a lot of other factors. Are you active? Your metabolism, fluids you put in the body. So it's not, I can't just say it's going to be out of your system. If you're active and hydrating, you could probably do a gummy a week. It'll never show up. But
right. But it's hard to know for sure.
It's hard to know for sure. And it's tough risk in a career.
I have 2 more questions for you. First question is, if you look forward, do you have a long-term vision for your company and your product? And if you don't, that's fine.
Long-term vision?
Yeah. Like, do you want to get massive? Do you want to stay small and local?
I'd like to continue to work with holistic-minded, Western medicine trained doctors who can help move our products and really looking for the patient's best interest, because there is a lot of questions people have, and we're a small staff at our place, and it's hard to talk to everybody. But having professionally trained medical staff,
I love that,
helps us.
That's great.
So it's really just working with people like yourself that are just on the holistic path as well,
Right.
and
There's a lot of us.
Yeah. The field's definitely growing. You can see it. There's a lot more people waking up and looking for alternatives.
And then if you had to, oh no, actually, I'm changing my second question. If you had to tell the audience what they could do to get in line with their passions and their mission and make the world a better place, what would you tell them? And that is a really hard question, but I feel like you're going to answer it really well.
I would say follow your highest passion. Whatever, even if you have to work, you have to be passionate about something else and spend time with that passion and vibrate high when you're in loving, when you're not gossiping, when you're not angry, when you're not, all that affects your health. And the higher you can vibrate, the less likely you are to get sick. I joked with Lynn. She's like, when's the last time you've been to the doctor? And I'm like, I will never go to the doctor because I believe I vibrate high enough. I take high vibratory products and I will never get sick.
I love that. Well, I think that's it, unless you think I missed anything, but that was really fun.
I don't have anything else.
No, well, and you're going to come back because we have some plans.
Okay.
Meaning the two of us have plans that we're just in the infancy stages of. So we'll have him back again.
Okay.
And I love if people have questions about his products, if people have questions on anything, please put it in the show notes. And if it's not a direct medical question about you specifically, I can answer it. If you're asking me for health advice through the internet, I cannot do that. You should come see me here. But definitely add comments, ask questions. And I really thank you for coming today. And I can't wait till we can do it again.
And also training staff and helping them. Helping them, because the more educated the society is, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely.
And I think what we've been told is good for us might not necessarily be good for us. And what we've been told by people we're supposed to trust what's bad for us is not necessarily bad for us.
Couldn't agree more.
That's why I like my raw milk and eggs.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming and thanks for listening, guys.